Smells good. Smells good. Got it. Okay. Okay, everybody. Sorry, Tamsin, I apologise for shouting at you, startling you. Good morning, everybody. It is 10:30, and welcome to members of committee and our other members of the public and our guests from LGPS Central. And I'm Eric Kerry. I'm chairman of the Nottingham Pension Fund Committee, and I'll remind members that the meeting is being broadcast live. And can you please use the microphones when speaking, so that you can be heard on the broadcast, and if you would please switch them off when you've finished speaking, so that we can all have a chance to speak and be heard. Okay, I'll start with agenda item number 1, which is the minutes of the last meeting held on the 8th of June. Can I ask the committee members, voting members, if the minutes of last week can be agreed as being a true record of what took place? Is that okay? Thank you very, very much. Item number 2 is to note the appointment of Councillor Dan Henderson from Bassetlaw District Council as the second District Borough Council rep on the committee. I welcome Dan to the committee, but I think we're going to find out very shortly that he's maybe not here for the first meeting today. So welcome, Dan, when you do come along. Item number 3, apologies for absence, please. Thank you, Joe.
Thank you. Today we have apologies from Councillor Introna, who's substituted by Councillor Turner, Councillor Eddie, who's substituted by Councillor Jonathan Wheeler, Councillor Clark, who is substituted by Councillor Henry. We also have apologies from Sue Reader and from Yvonne Davidson.
Thank you very much, Joe. Just so that Councillor Introna is at a conference today, so he's probably working earlier than we have. Early start this morning, I think, Tamsin, wasn't it? Yeah. Okay, thank you. Number 4, item number 4A, are declarations of interest by members and officers. So do any members or officers have any disclosable pecuniary interest to declare, please? I'm looking around the room, I see none, thank you. And B, do any members or officers present have any other interests, either pecuniary or non-pecuniary, to declare? Again, that's a no. Thank you very, very much. Okay, moving on to the first substantive item on the agenda today is item number 5. It's the Local Government Pension Scheme Guaranteed Minimum Pension Rectification Update Report. So this is a really important report. It's culmination, hopefully the culmination of a long period of very, very hard work by our officers, very difficult and complex work, I would say. So before I hand over to Sarah and John, who are going to present the report, I'd like to move the recommendation, which is on page 12 of our agenda pack. Can I have a seconder, please?
I'll second that, reserves right.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Introna. So, Sarah? John, you'll be leading. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Just starting off then, the purpose of the report is to update the Pension Committee on the progress of the Guaranteed Minimum Pension, GMP, rectification exercise following the completion of the reconciliation exercise undertaken with HM Revenue and Customs. Members will recall a presentation in January working group where I presented the pension fund's findings from the reconciliation exercise, and I've also referenced previous update reports that I've presented to committee in the report. Just to remind committee members, the reconciliation exercise is a national requirement initiated by HMRC, which has impacted on all public and private sector pension funds who were contracted out of the additional state pension. As the committee is aware, there is a requirement to reconcile the GMP elements recorded by the fund with those records held by HMRC to ensure that pensions coming into payment and those already in payment are paid at the correct amount, and to ensure that GMP values are represented accurately at each future valuation. The report details the rectification process that the fund has followed to date, and in the report there is a table at point 13 that outlines the activities that have been completed. As part of the reconciliation process, the fund has identified a number of over and underpayments, totalling 766 cases. The report provides information on the underpayments and overpayments with some context. In coming to the recommendations in the report, the fund has taken legal advice on the GMP rectification, as well as having regard to guidance provided by the LGA, along with following the same approach taken by the majority of LGPS and public sector funds. And I'll rest my presentation and take questions.
Thank you very much, John. Are there any questions or comments from members, please? Councillor Waters.
Thank you, Chairman. So looking through the report on page 11, I can see that the overpayments total 5.9 million and underpayments just over 650,000. Those individual members, where they have been overpaid, will an assessment be carried out, for example, if that's taken them over a tax banding, if they would have therefore lost out on pension credit and other such benefits, but also those members who have been underpaid for quite a substantial period, will a big income amount, lump sum, be given to those people to reimburse them, and what's going to be done to mitigate any circumstances where they'll be taken over a potential tax threshold if it impacts their benefits, so on and so forth. My suggestion would be that the fund could offer those individuals either financial advice or money guidance to help them meet any needs they have got. Say, going to be vulnerable people who might not understand the circumstances, and especially members who have been overpaid. A 2-month warning, it's not a lot of time for them to put their finances in order, so it could be helpful to offer money guidance at least paid for by this fund.
Thank you, Councillor Waters. We have considered all the elements that you have mentioned, and Sarah will go into some detail about it. But there's been a similar situation before, I think, with the fire authority pension funds, where a similar under overpayment happened in the past, and we did give, and help was given to individuals affected. So we will give help and support where it is appropriate. Sarah, do you want to go in a bit more detail? Thank you.
Councillor Walters, I'll answer your second part, and then John will answer your first part. So with regards to financial advice, we are not regulated by the Financial Conduct Authority, therefore we have no legal or regulatory obligation or ability to provide financial advice. With regards to money guidance, obviously there are a number of government agencies where people can go. So I think it would be appropriate for us to include those in the letters that we write out to people. But we have to be very clear that we will not and cannot give any financial advice. We can direct people to these other agencies.
But we will be proactive in informing the pensioners, because they're all retired pensioners that are affected by the scheme, of what Sarah's just said.
Just in terms of the first point, Councillor Waters, we don't actually know who has pension credits and issues in relation to their tax, because the tax is obviously personal to them and people are in different circumstances. So yeah, it's our intention to refer to those where necessary in the correspondence. A majority of certainly the overpayments are quite small amounts. And so we're not expecting a huge impact in terms of their, I suppose, their effect on their pension. And likewise, in terms of the underpayments as well. But clearly, we will reference that in any correspondence so that they can look for the appropriate advice that they need.
Can I add to that? And that's why we've also decided to take a 2-month delay in terms so that people can evaluate and understand the position that they're in. Did you want to come back on that?
Yes, so if someone has been underpaid for a number of years, are you going to give them that income amount in a single lump sum so it could be taxable when it otherwise wouldn't have been if it was paid appropriately in the first place?
Yes, thank you. We do have to pay in accordance with HMRC regulations. It will be in a lump sum. In terms of the 2-month time frame, the pension regulations require us to put right over and underpayments as we find them, and there isn't actually a. We're supposed to put them right in the month that they're discovered. So we've taken a view that 2 months was a reasonable time frame to try and inform members and for them to get their information or get the information they need to put obviously their financial issues in order. Clearly, as I said earlier, the majority of adjustments are small amounts, and we're not anticipating a high number of issues. There will be some, because there are some higher overpayments and underpayments, but we will look at them on a case by case basis, I think.
Thank you, John. Councillor Camilleri, you indicated.
Yes, good question, Councillor Waters. But I think this is happening in other councils already, and what they've done, they've left the overpayments. It's going to be a big job trying to get the money back. So if we don't take any action, the overpayments would make no difference. Their lives would go on. There wouldn't be no tax element because they've been paid the money, so it would be the same. So it's just the underpayments, isn't it, where you're going to pay the small underpayments. Yeah. How do you think that's going to work? So I don't think we're going to go and chase them for the money, are we? I wouldn't have thought so.
So the proposal within the report is not to recover the overpayment because this is a complex situation where a pensioner would be unreasonable to have expected them to understand this position that they were in. So, but we will correct their pension going forward. We're required to do that by the regulations. Obviously, the underpayments, yes, they'll receive their arrears with interest, and their pension will also be corrected. And as you rightly said, Councillor Camilleri, this same exercise is being run by other local government pension schemes. The armed forces have completed theirs, as have the civil service. There has not been a lot of noise across the entire public sector pension scene.
Can I just add to that, in that we did take legal advice in terms of the situations that you just described, in terms of recovery and all those things as well.
Can I just come back? The problem is obviously if you've got big overpayment to some people, because I should imagine there may be some large overpayments. When you take that off them, that may affect their life in terms of the pension they receive. And I'm hoping, obviously, we're going to look after it and give them some advice how to handle that. If the overpayment is quite a substantial amount, there will be one or two like that, I think.
Yes, please, Sarah, would you come in?
So there will be a detailed communication plan, there will be individual letters, and also we will, where there is a significant change, offer to meet with individuals either at a county office or in their own home if that's what they wish. But yes, we will tailor very much the comms to individuals.
Chris King.
Thank you, Chair. With reference to the correspondence that's going out, I do understand that it would be difficult, but can we make sure that there is something on there about they do have the right to appeal, but I do understand the process of the appeal and where it is likely to lead, but to make sure it's being offered to them. Thank you.
Yes, John.
Yes, thank you, Chris. Under the regulations, there is an independent review process, so that will be in the letter that they have that right to request that.
Thanks. That was good. A very good point, Chris. Thank you for that. Are there any more questions or comments, please? Councillor Waters, yeah.
Thanks, Chair. Can you just enlighten me to the implications to the fund, the employees of the overpayment? 5.9 million is quite substantial, and that 650,000 underpayment. What impact is that going to have to people currently paying into the scheme and employers and employees?
Yes, John, please.
Yes, that's a good question. This is built into the value. This has been built into the valuation over 2019 and 2022, and the actuary has put in. I think it was something like 0.5% of impact on the fund. So it's very small compared to the overall value of the fund.
I think that was one of the questions we put to the actuary when they gave their presentation at the meeting that you were at a few months ago. So yes, that's been taken care of. Thank you. Any other questions or comments? I see none. So the recommendations have been proposed and seconded. Can I have all those in favour, please? I think that's unanimous. Thank you very much, members. Moving on to item number 6, and welcome today LGPS Central. John, are you going to lead us in your presentation? Thank you very much for coming along today, and we look forward to some good questions from the members, I think.
Thank you, Chair, and good morning. My name's John Burns. I'm the interim CEO for LGPS Central. I've been with the company for 5 years. My career has been in investment management, as various roles, Chief Operating Officer and finance roles at companies like Schroders, Bearings and Fidelity, who you've probably heard of. With me today is Bassetlaw District, who's a manager in our responsible investment group, and he'll follow on with some information around where we stand and things we're doing on responsible investment. But I'll start the presentation just with a refresh on the background of pooling, where LGPS stands, and the activities that we're undertaking and the things we're doing, looking forward to in the future. So if we turn to slide 4 on my deck, and the page numbers in the bottom left-hand corner. Pooling was mandated by government, and Central is one of the 8 pools managing a collective of local authority LGPS pension funds. The objectives of pooling in the day were to achieve scale, which would enable us to access better opportunities, one of fee rates, and 2, in terms of the opportunities of the investment set that could be achieved. So, and also to make cost savings, which would reduce the drain on the fund of higher fees, therefore leaving more assets available to create growth, whilst at the same time generating investment return. In addition, setting up pools under a regulated structure with the FCA accreditation, we establish a different governance regime over the investment business, and also the investment opportunity which government intended at the time was for the pools to invest further in infrastructure in the UK. More of that later. At the bottom of the slide, I just list there the pension funds and the authorities for whom we act. It's the 8 around the contiguous area to ourselves in the central region. Just turning to slide 5 now, just to comment on some of the focus areas we're looking at for 2023-24. We look at the circle there, the diagram moving clockwise from the top right. So thinking of how we want to manage assets in the pool effectively. And what we mean by this is providing services to our partner funds, Nottinghamshire in particular. So we offer internal investment management. We run a series of passive funds which are matched to indices, and we outsource the active management to third-party managers whom we oversee. That oversight of those managers is a disciplined approach, ensuring that they are managing the assets in accordance with our agreed investment objectives. We do things like challenging the risk positions they take, and also looking at their investment style to make sure it matches the mandate that we've agreed. We do have some successes in that space. If we see in the volatility of the markets, we can see positions which the managers are holding and question whether they are appropriate for the timing and such like. And we have had instances where the manager has worked with us to change a holding. We also enhance the assets that we manage for our partner funds through additional services that are provided. So we perform securities lending. So this is moving funds out on loan to help liquidity in the markets, for which we receive a fee, and that goes into the fund and again enhances the return. And we also manage the cash balances on the funds that we manage, so that they are moved overnight into cash funds. And you can appreciate with interest rates at the moment being so good that that's great to get a return on the overnight markets, and then the funds come back into the pool the next day. So lots of thought goes into managing the portfolios to ensure we get the best return. As well as managing existing assets, we are constantly engaging with our partner funds to ensure that we are launching the right funds. And the most recent active fund was a series of sustainable equity funds, clearly important investment priorities in the world today, and they've been a very attractive option. And the Nottinghamshire Pension Fund has invested 300 million into that series of funds. The next item coming around the clock, we talk about responsible investment and engagement. I'll leave the detail of that to Bassia, but just to note that we do engage very carefully and closely with Nottinghamshire around responsible investment and engagement, and provide a broad service for the pension fund. Moving around the clock, just looking at clearly to work very closely with our partner funds as our clients. It's important that we have very good relationships, and we work really hard to make sure we get that dialogue and work very carefully and closely with our partner funds on the requirements. At the 9 o'clock narrative, clearly we have to do everything properly and correctly, and so it's very important that we are resilient in terms of our operational structure and framework. We're subject to oversight from our internal auditors, from our external auditors conducting a risk assessment, and also from our custodian. And finally, the people who do the work, it's really important that we offer training, development and support for our staff and make sure we work effectively together. Turning to slide 6, just looking at the journey that we've been on. The middle one, stands out as business as usual. I'm sure you'll appreciate in any sector there's never really business as usual. It's always change, and we face that as we grow our funds, and also as our partner funds and others come in and out of those investments. We're starting to see now that some of the funds are now seeing redemptions and switches into other funds because of the different appetite for risk and exposure. The next phase for us is to work with our partner funds to look at what the medium term will mean for us, how we can make sure that Central provides what it has to provide and our partner funds require. And so we're looking to make sure that we retain that relevance and continue to perform our role of providing excellent investment returns and also the cost savings, which is clear to our mandate. For turning the slides on to 8, this slide just shows the exposure that Nottinghamshire has to the central pool. So unfortunately, it's a little bit out of date because the 300 million for the sustainable funds came in, so we're now at 1.2 billion is invested by Nottinghamshire into our fund, and I'm very pleased with Nottinghamshire's commitment to the pool. My final slide is slide 9. Just a comment on the alternative investments, the private market sectors that we offer exposure to. We cover all the 4 suites of that. There's property, private equity, infrastructure, and private credit. These areas are clearly very exciting to investors at the moment. They are offering some very good opportunities, and I'm pleased to say that we do have some interesting products that our partner funds invest in. The private equity one was an interesting one. It was the first one we launched back in 2018. Was the first vintage. Nottinghamshire is an investor in that product, and at the time we decided that logistics, pet care, and waste management were 3 exciting areas that would perform well, and indeed they have. So the investments in that fund have performed very well. That's all I have to say, Chair, on my part. I'm happy to take questions now if anybody wants to take any questions on the first part, or we could move on to Bashar.
I'd like to ask one. Obviously, LGPS Central is FCA regulated. Not all pools are regulated. May I ask why that decision was taken to move in that direction?
We believe that the FCA regulation, and when I talk we at this point, it's our partner funds who are instrumental in setting up the pool, and it's more of a decision that was taken by the collective eight pools of the central region. But I believe, and having worked in financial services all my life, that having that discipline of a financial regulator, standards which one has to apply both for the company and personally, gives an obligation to clients and investors, and also gives them comfort that the money is being managed appropriately because we have that rigour around us.
Sorry, I really should, before I move on, propose a recommendation, which is on page 13 of the pack. It's a noting recommendation. So, can I have a seconder, please? Thank you. Are there any other questions for John at this stage, please, from members? William.
I'm going to make a quick comment and then ask a question. First point is that pooling is here to stay. It's not going away, and anybody who thinks it might be, it really isn't. But the government isn't going to give us much guidance either. They're too busy. They're focused on other things. So we really, as all the funds and all the pools, have to make it work ourselves. Nottinghamshire was a very low-cost fund before pooling started, and therefore the actual financial savings we get from LGPS Central will be pretty small, I'm afraid, for quite a long time out. But there are other considerable advantages, and I just mentioned the work done by their responsible investment team, the fact that it gives us much more access to kind of more complex private investments, and in particular resilience. So this is a very lightly staffed fund, and having LGPS Central there gives us much more resilience. That all said, costs matter. The focus of John's talk was on costs, but what really matters is actually investment performance. because that's going to dwarf any cost savings if you get it wrong. And so coming on to my question, John, there really are two questions. One is, can you say a little bit about the governance of LGPS Central? You've described yourself as interim CEO, and that is because Mike Weston has departed as CEO. Just a comment for the committee's benefit on what's happening there. And then secondly, a kind of comment on what you're doing to ensure that going forward, investment performance is what we need.
Sure. Thank you, William. The first question on governance. I'm pleased to say that evidence that I'm sitting here as interim CEO demonstrates we think about the longevity of the business and succession. I've been deputy CEO and been with the company for a number of years, so the fact that Mike has moved on means that I'm very capable of stepping up to this position in this role. I mentioned when I talked about the things that we think are important, and again, staff is really important. When I look at the leadership in my teams, I'm very comfortable that the teams that are now leading different segments are very well qualified and capable of doing their role. So I don't believe that the change in the departure of the CEO has any effect in the short term on the organisation or our ability to perform the services that we do perform. And in terms of investment performance, our role is significant when it comes to the oversight of our third-party funds, and that testament to that is what we're doing in some of the funds, which are one of the funds which you will have seen. We're looking at how we can change the management structure of that to ensure that we continue to maintain the performance record of those funds, changing managers and bringing other managers in to change the style of the fund. So all the time we're constantly looking at not only challenging the managers if they're underperforming, but also working ways we can proactively change the structure of the funds to ensure that we are getting the best opportunity to provide the best returns for the funds.
So may I ask a supplementary question? But I'm aware that various new board members have been appointed in the last 6 months, and I think it'd just be helpful to share that with the committee and also what you're doing to replace Mike.
The last one first. Mike will be going out to find a new CEO via a search through a search company to identify someone to take the seat. In terms of the non-execs, yes, we have in the last 6 months we have appointed 3 new non-exec directors. More recently, Belinda Moore has come to us from an FMCG background. She is an expert in communications and marketing, and we believe that that's an effective contribution to the board in terms of her ability to help us, to support us on how we engage, how we communicate, and how we relate to partner funds and others. She's also been on boards in the senior positions in her company, so comes with a lot of experience of senior management roles. 2 other members who joined us: Ian Armfield, an ex-PwC partner, has joined as chair of the audit committee, and Kieran Barr, who's joined us and was more recently in an investment role at RPMI, the Rail Pension Fund. So we've enhanced the board with a number of very significantly experienced new NEDs.
Thank you, William. Any other questions or comments at this stage before we move on to responsible investment? No. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, John. Thanks, committee, for inviting us to talk about responsible investment at LGPS Central. I'd like to take you to slide number 12 or page 26 of the pack that you have in front of you. I think this is a good place to start because it reiterates our message that responsible investment remains at the core of how we invest at LGPS Central. We take it very seriously. It is a board KPI that all of our funds are responsible investment integrated, and it trickles down to every employee at LGPS Central. And how do we do that? We make sure that we have the right teams, the right process, the right tools, and the right data sets to make sure that our analysis remains relevant and adds value to the investment process. We are also on our own net zero journey. We've announced our ambition last year, and we are developing and implementing our net zero strategy, which I will talk about in a later slide. And we continue to engage with the investee companies, the companies that we invest in. And our engagement team has been very busy. We engaged with over 2,000 companies in the past 12 months across ourselves, our partners, our stewardship providers. This covers all the 4 core stewardship teams that we have agreed with partner funds and more. So there's a lot of efforts in that side. So what does this give our partner funds? It gives partner funds comfort that we are ready to assist our partner funds whenever they have any questions about responsible investments. And of course, our flagship is the Climate Risk Monitoring Service and the Climate Risk Report and TCFD report that we produce. I'll talk about that much later. But also, we are seeing a lot more scrutiny in responsible investment activities. And the questions that we get nowadays are becoming a lot more complex. So we are here ready to assist partner funds if and when you get those type of questions, if and when partner funds want to strategize about responsible investments, and we have the expertise in-house to help you with that. Let's move back one slide to slide number 11. This is just a snapshot of our activities in the past 12 months. I've already spoken about a lot of this previously. We are very proud to maintain our status as a signatory to the FRC UK Stewardship Code. We are part of the first inductees to the cohort when FRC changed its stewardship code in 2021, and we remain within that that group of companies or asset managers who are a signatory. We have submitted our latest stewardship code report in April, and hopefully we'll have good news on that soon. I've already talked about engagement, so I'll not talk about it anymore. And on the right hand side, right hand column on that page is basically our deliverables over the past 12 months, which is the climate scenario analysis, the climate risk monitoring service, which I'll speak about now. I also like to announce that we are proud to be nominated as finalists at the upcoming LAPF Local Authority Pension Fund Awards as one of the finalists for Responsible Investment Approach 2023. And that's a testament of how the industry is recognizing the efforts that we do at LGPS Central. And moving back one slide, I'm sorry for how this slide is put together, but yeah, moving back one slide to slide number 10 or page 24, this is on our climate risk monitoring service, including the climate risk report and the climate risk trainings that we do for the pension committee. I'm happy to announce that this year's climate risk report project has been kicked off earlier this week, and we aim to deliver those reports for the October 2023 pension committee meeting. And you will see a lot more enhancements in this year's report, a lot more integration, a lot more metrics that will help you make better decisions when it comes to climate investing. We'll also give you a little bit of training on the new metrics and perhaps a refresher on what climate risk is about during that particular meeting. And I am confident that with all these new enhancements, that when the Department of Levelling Up TCFD mandate in 2024 kicks in, we are more than ready to meet those standards. And in fact, I think we are right now already ahead of what the regulations will ask us to do. And finally, skipping quite a lot of slide to slide number 13, page 27 of your report is our net zero strategy. Now, I don't expect you to be able to read the tables and the charts on the left-hand side. That's just a snapshot of the dashboard that we have to set our net zero targets, as well as monitor our progress with net zero. all of these are all developed in-house. We follow the IRGCC Institutional Investors Group on Climate Change Net Zero Investment Framework, and our strategy adheres to that, developed in-house, dashboards developed in-house. So we have the experience to assist partner funds if and when they want to embark on their net zero journey in the future. And we have the metrics, the stewardship plans, and all the other alignment targets that is recommended by IRGCC. And hopefully this will add value to partner funds when and if they want to embark on their own net zero journey. And with that, I'll end my presentation for questions.
Thank you very much. I'm just noting that on the work programme, the 12th of October 2023, we'll have the climate risk metrics report, I think. So probably bring some more information, enhanced information then, I would guess, Tamsin, is that right? Yeah. Okay. Are there any questions or comments, please, on responsible investment? Roger. Councillor Jackson.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. Yeah, I think it's very commendable about the investments in new technology, new climate change. Trying to get down to net zero. But this is an ever changing market at the moment as new technologies and new ideas come forward. So you could be investing in something which is probably worthless tomorrow because it's been superseded by new technology or new ideas. I know some people who invested in recycling lithium when batteries came on. Apparently now that's not doable, and those companies sort of disappeared overnight. And so that investment. So are we sort of making sure that the investments we make are long term and not slightly risky because the new technology is coming forward?
Thanks for the question. Yes, every investment that we make is always for the long term, but when it comes to investments, there's always risk. So you have to take the right calculated risk to deliver those returns. If you look at, I'll give an example, even renewable energies, if you invest 10 years ago, the yields would be double digit, and today it will be fairly comparable to fossil fuel generation. So the compression has made your asset prices go up significantly. So we need to be always at the forefront of the technology, understanding how the market is changing, making sure that we are positioning ourselves at the right sectors and the right technologies to deliver those investment returns.
Are there any other questions or comments? Well, it seems like your presentation has answered all the questions, or most of the questions already. That's brilliant. Thank you very, very much for coming along. I just need to ask for the vote before we finish off, in case anybody makes any other comments. The recommendation has been proposed and seconded. All those in favour, please. Okay. Thank you. That's unanimous. Okay, now we've done the business. That's really good. Thank you very much both for coming on, and no doubt we'll see you again in future and probably in October. Thank you. Okay, the next item on the agenda is number 7. Before I hand over to Kieran to introduce the report, the recommendation on page 33, I will move it. Thank you. Kieran.
Thank you, Chair. The fund has responsibility for voting any directly held shares. Voting is undertaken on the fund's behalf by Hermes EOS in line with the voting principles of LGPS Central. LGPS Central also engages with the companies it has holdings in, and this is reported in its quarterly stewardship update. And the most recent update highlights, among other things, Central's recent meeting with Glencore. An overview of the Hermes EOS voting activity and Central's engagement work is shown in the report, and it's published also on the fund's website every quarter. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Kieran. It is a regular report, and we'll always get the links, and we get regular links showing what all the engagement has been. So thank you for that. Are there any questions or comments for Kieran, please? Okay, I see none. The recommendation has been proposed and seconded. I'll ask for a show of hands, please. All those for? Any against? Any abstentions? That's one abstention. Thank you. It's carried. Moving on to item number 8, the LAPFA Local Authority Pension Fund Forum business meeting. And again, I'll move the recommendation, which is on page 36. Thank you. Kieran, your report again, please.
Thank you again, Chair. The Local Authority Pension Fund Forum was formed in 1990 to provide an opportunity for the UK's local pension funds to discuss investment and shareholder engagement issues, and also to assist administering authorities in the discharge of the statutory responsibilities and promote the long-term investment interests of UK local authority pension funds. A hybrid business meeting was held on the 19th of April, which I attended online. And among other things, the business meeting discussed the current cost of living crisis being partly driven by high energy costs, which in turn has been driven by the Ukraine crisis, and was also presented an update on lapse engagement work in the quarter ending 31st of March 2023. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Kieran, for the overview. Are there any questions or comments from members, please? Councillor Waters.
Thank you, Chairman. On here, why did Brunel let its membership lapse? Because they're one of the pools who typically take climate change and things quite seriously. So I'm just interested in why they did let that membership lapse, if you know.
I'm afraid I don't know why that happened. It was just mentioned at the meeting that they had let it lapse, but there was no discussion on that. Maybe LAPF could provide information if we asked for an explanation.
Yes, William, if you have
I don't know the answer, but I do have people, I know people that we know, I can ask them. I'll try and come back to you.
Thank you, William. Are there any other questions or comments on this report, please? Okay, no. Move the recommendation again was on page 36. Can I have a vote, show of hands, please? All those in favour? Thank you. That's unanimous. Okay, we now move on to item number 9, which is the work programme. The recommendation is on page 40 of the agenda pack at the top. I'll move that. Thank you, Councillor Camilleri. Tamsin, can you take us through the report, please?
Thank you, Chair. In the appendix, you can see the work programme for the rest of the committee meetings of the current cycle. The committee is asked to identify any additional reports required. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Tamsin. Well, we've all had the report, we've all read through it. Noticed the interesting climate risk metric coming in October. Any other comments or questions for members who want anything else on the work programme? Chris.
Thank you, Chair. Having just attended conference, one of the comments from the Minister was that there's not likely to be anything further coming out with regard to pensions except McLeod in October under the current government. The review that's commenced in autumn 22 doesn't look like we're going to get any government guidance on that. Is anything going to be done about that within in-house? Thank you.
Sarah, would you like to come back on that?
Yes, there is a meeting 4th of August between Nigel Stevenson and Marge Toward, the separate service directors, and myself and Keith. And then obviously we'll be in a position to probably come back with some indication of when we can report further.
Sorry, Councillor Waters, Lee.
Thank you, Chairman. I've noted this has been updated on the 4th of June. Is that why I can't see the tobacco discussion on it?
Tamsin?
I have dug out some information. We did the last review of the tobacco holdings at the working party in January 22, and we decided we would continue to monitor holdings, which we have done. The holding that you specifically mentioned that we had at the end of March, that was, we were already holding that when we did our last review, so that's not a new holding. That was one that we already had. It's in our short ones portfolio. It will be repaid within 9 months anyway. I'm not sure there is any new information there that we need to react to.
Can we have a discussion outside the meeting and email Councillor Waters with a view on that?
If you want to email me with a view, I do think it is something for a public meeting rather than a working group, so it's transparent. But yeah, I'll wait your email.
Tamsin just explained the situation we're currently in, so but we can have another look at that. Thank you.
Can I just say it is a tiny part of the pension fund assets.
Sorry. Are there any other questions? William?
Is it possible to confirm the dates of the property tour this year and next year? Wrong.
Right, the property tour is the 13th of September. And I actually have a list, so I will be trying to catch those people that haven't replied as they leave to make sure we know who's attending. We are looking at organising a slightly longer property tour for April next year, but I'm still waiting for Aberdeen to confirm the date, so that's not certain yet.
Thank you, Tamsin. I'm sure that everybody would love to be going on the tour. We've had longer ones before, overnight stays, all kinds of things, but people seem to be very busy these days. Please come along. It's very interesting, not both in terms of looking at property and our investments in those properties, but actually getting the group together to understand how we work together to make things better for the pension fund and our pensioners. Thank you. Okay, I see no other questions or comments. The recommendation has been made. All those in favour of the work programme, please. Any against? And I guess there's an abstention. Thank you, Councillor Waters. The report's carried. Thank you. May I thank you all very much for your attendance today. Hopefully some of the stuff for the newer members has been useful, particularly the LGPS Central, and I'm sure there'll be other training and stuff happening over the next period to get everybody up to speed with the fund. So thank you very much, everybody, and have a good rest of the day. Thank you.